Hi, everybody. Welcome to the demo, the show where companies come in and they show us their latest products and platforms. Today, I'm joined by Will LaSala. He is the field CTO at OneSpan. Welcome to the show, Will.
Thank you so much, Keith. It's great to be here. I'm happy to, kind of meet with you and talk through kind of what OneSpan's doing.
Yeah. So tell me a little, for those who might not be familiar with OneSpan, what field are you in? What do you guys do?
Yeah, sure. So OneSpan is a digital agreements, electronic signature security company. What that means is that we're the world's leading provider, or right behind DocuSign, for adding kind of electronic signatures. So these are documents that instead of doing paper documents, you go online and you sign. And that sign is usually done with a certificate, so it protects that signature and really protects the entire process. Right. So we add security into that and really make that whole process really secure.
And digital signatures have been around for a while. So what's new in this space? Like what are people concerned with? What are you going to then show us today that you can solve these problems?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, digital signatures have absolutely been around. I think at least since OneSpan's been around since the early 90s.
Yeah.
So we've been doing this since that. We were actually one of the first companies to do it. And when we look at electronic signatures and its evolution, really today it's all about actually securing those transactions. So previously you kind of got a certificate on it, but you had a lot of click to sign. It was really about user convenience. Instead of having to have a boatload of papers, you'd actually just go in and get a PDF and walk through the PDF and sign it. But that has kind of stepped quite a bit further, right? So now it's about actually securing the user and identifying who the user is before they're allowed to actually get into that signature process.
Okay.
And then also protecting that document itself. So once you have that document signed, you don't want someone to come in and be like, hey, you know what, I'm going to replace it or I can change the signature on it or anything like that. So really protecting the document, protecting that ID. And then finally, one of the other areas that we see is, when you're doing notary services, a lot of the times right now people have to go to see a notary, right? And that's kind of inconvenient, and a lot of people are looking to try and move that. And so about 30 some odd states are actually allowing for that, doing virtual notary environments where you can actually do the entire process now online, and that's all part of the e-signature world.
All right, so if companies weren't using some of these new features that you've added, and it feels like it's all about identity authentication. Almost like two-factor, but not all digital. It's now physical too, right? I think.
Yeah.
All right. So is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's two different types of security here, right? So there is the identity and actually verifying the user is who they say they are, right? And then there's actually the authentication, which is just to prove that not only is that user who they said they were, but that's actually the user that's performing the transaction too.
Right.
So we combine both of them. So we offer both the identity version and then also the two-factor, multi-factor authentication piece as well.
And what would companies be doing without this? Would they, if they were using a competitor, you mentioned a couple of them, but would they be, is it more difficult to use those services or those platforms, or would they still be relying on paper signatures? I see that you bought a couple of forms.
I did, absolutely. When it comes to security, every vendor kind of does it a little differently. I think OneSpan really focuses on that security piece. Some people say, okay, you know what, I'm just going to get an SMS OTP, right? And that's fine. But SMS OTP has its own security problems and worries around it. What we really need is to kind of start to step that up. And that's where OneSpan really plays, is to help people go beyond simple SMS OTP and really into the world of FIDO and identity verification. So this is a whole nother world of passkeys and really strong security.
All right, let's jump into the demo, because I think there's some really cool stuff that you're going to show me.
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, you're absolutely right. So this is a loan application, right? It's pretty long. If I wanted to get a mortgage here, I had to go through it. I always got all my instructions that I got to read and everything. And it's kind of a pain to go through that. And I don't know how long it's been since I've done a loan application or a mortgage here, but it's been a little while.
Yeah.
And it really hasn't changed. You kind of look at it and you're going through all these documents and it takes forever. And actually, I think this is a small version of it, right? I think you usually get quite a bit more papers. So what we usually end up trying to do is we move that into electronic signature. So this is kind of what I think most people would be familiar with. You get a PDF and you go in and you're kind of filling out some of the fields and what have you. But this is still kind of a pain, right? It's still a lot of work to kind of go through and do that. And so OneSpan kind of takes this a step further. Mm-hmm. And what we do is we simplify the process of actually doing all of this stuff. So the first thing we do is actually onboard a user. And so what we're trying to do in this scenario here is essentially, again, you're working with a bank for a mortgage, mm-hmm. so you usually need to open a bank account. Yep. And so we're going to do an onboarding here. Now, Connor Sample for us, this is actually from the Massachusetts DMV. They were kind enough this past season here to give us a nice Connor Sample identity here to remind everybody to get their real ID in May because snowmen melt quicker than the rest do. So we're going to actually use Connor Sample here to kind of step through.
So in this scenario, you're the bank.
That's right. Yeah. I'm actually Connor.
Or you're
I'm going to be
okay.
Connor. Okay. And so I'm going to actually apply, and I'm applying at my bank.
Oh, okay.
So this is my bank.
So they would have already set this up.
So not yet.
Oh, okay.
So this is actually Connor. I'm literally applying for a mortgage right now. I'm going online. I'm probably at home. Probably sitting in front of my computer right now. I've got my phone. And so my phone is on the right-hand side here. I've got my bank's website, which is on the left-hand side here. And I've gone ahead and started to fill in some information. So kind of simple information, the typical things that a bank asks for. As I kind of go through here and I fill in everything I want, I go ahead and I click next. Now it's going to ask me, okay, so, what type of stuff do you want with your bank account? Do I want a free checking account? No, I don't. And so what's interesting about the way that our solution is working here is we call this smart forms. So what's happening is this is actually drag and drop. So the bank, when they set this up, they can set these forms up very easily. Right. And not just that, it can grab information, right? So instead of making you fill out your name 15 times on this form, right? Or even in here, populating this information so that you're always typing the same thing over and over and over again. Our smart forms allow you to gather information and to populate that, pre-populate it, so you don't have to retype it. Okay. So after you're done typing everything in, making your account here, we're going to go ahead and get it signed. But before we get it signed, we have to prove that I'm actually Connor, right? That I'm Connor Sample. And the way I'm going to do that is actually I'm going to do what we call identity verification. So in our sample here, I've got the settings turned down here so that I can allow my snowman to look like me. Okay. But essentially, this would be a real driver's license or a real passport or something of that nature. And I would go ahead and I'd say, okay, yeah, I have my ID. I just got a text message, so I'm going to get my text message here over my phone here. I go ahead and I open my text message. And now I'm actually starting my identity verification process, right? So it says, hey, Connor, we're going to select what type of document you want to do. So I've got my driver's license, so I'm going to go ahead and select the driver's license. We're very global, so we do everything all over the world. Okay. So we have to select our country. And in this case here, we're going to select the United States. And because we're in Massachusetts, we're going to go ahead and add Massachusetts as our state here. So there we go. Now, the whole point of this is actually to verify that the data that you just entered and the sign up part is actually you. Okay. Right? So we're not actually trying to extract the information and say, okay, what's this information and can I use that to populate it? Instead, we're actually saying, did you provide us the real information? Is that really you? And so we go ahead and we click next. And the way we do this and the way we verify this is we actually do the capture. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and capture an image of my driver's license. So we go ahead and start that. And I'm going to actually bring my mobile to the center here because we're going to turn it. Yep. We're going to go ahead and start the process, and it's going to ask me to rotate. So I rotate my screen. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and frame my ID, and the solution will actually pick up that it's seeing an ID, and it says, oh yeah, okay, we saw that ID. Here you go. It looks legible. We'll go ahead, and now it says, okay, you got to flip it over. Let's see the back. Oh yeah, look, there's even a back on this license. So let's go ahead and scan the back of that. And actually what it's doing here is it's looking at the information, the machine readable information and that QR code, and it's extracting it. So it's actually looking to say, okay, does the front match the back? Is the information on here like is it a valid ID?
Yeah.
And then in most
does it do that within its own system, or do you call out to the RMV to verify?
It actually does it all within its own system. So it uses AI. It goes through it, evaluates, and so the AI is actually doing a lot of things, right? So I've got the system turned way down here. Otherwise, it would pick up that this isn't real.
That's a snowman.
Yeah, exactly. It also pick up that this isn't laminated.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't have the holograms on it. It also pick up that I changed it, so I actually used Photoshop and changed some of the data in here. It would pick up all of that stuff, and it would fail the identity on you. But in this case, we're actually going to go ahead and so here's our IDs, some great pictures of our IDs, and we can retake it and what have you. But let's go ahead and take the next step. And so this next step, if I was really Connor, I'd be a snowman, right? But since I'm not a snowman, what we actually end up doing here is we're comparing your face, a live face, to what's on the ID. And so what we're trying to do is first off detect that you're real. You're a real person, not AI generated, not someone behind the scenes or manipulating things. You're simply you're an actual person that's performing this. And then we're also checking things like what's happening around you. Like, what's the context of what's happening and why do we see, are you under duress, anything like that. So now that we've got our face capture up here, let's go ahead and take a selfie. These are always the best pictures in the world, let me tell you. So we'll go ahead and smile, and I love my hair today. I need a haircut. Don't smile. And then smile. And that's it. And so once it comes in, so great selfies, that I love them. They always look so good. And then we go ahead, and so now when I submit these in, what will end up happening is we submit these to our AI. Our AI goes off and actually validates and says, okay, first off, is that AI, is that picture real? Secondly, it says, okay, does that picture match what's on the ID? Thirdly, it checks and says, okay, is the name correct? So a lot of the time I go by Will. And so I might type in Will. And when I do that, that causes some friction in some onboarding processes that are fully automated because, especially I get flagged every time I go through airport security because my passport says William, but my ticket always says Will. And this is the technology that actually goes along with that and tries to fix, some of that. So we try to look at, we look at the name, we look at all the information, we standardize it, and we use AI to kind of really pick that out. So now that the images have been submitted to our back end, we can now come back in here and look at what happens on the server side. And so the first thing that it does here is it actually does the verification.
Okay.
So it's actually going to send this information off, verifying all the data in here. Again, we have these controls set very low right now, allowing us to kind of get through the demo.
This is the demo, so it's just verifying the snowman. It's not verifying
Exactly. I would be very cold. I was very cold today, but it would be in there. Just generally speaking, it does take about 30 seconds for it to actually go through and do it. I know we say 3 to 5 minutes. That's not typical. I don't think anyone would sit in there for 3 to 5 minutes. But then you get actually into your document. And what I wanted to kind of bring up for you is, so we talked in the beginning here about the difference between identity and authentication. Authentication really allows you to prove you are who, after you've identified yourself, that you're the same person that next time you come in here. And actually that's where we get into passkeys.
Okay.
And so this is FIDO, and essentially what we're doing here is we're now going to go ahead and issue a passkey for this user so that the next time they come in, we're going to go ahead and set it up. So it first asked me to try and do it on my Mac, right? Because we're an Apple and it's like, yeah, you want to do it on your Mac? But I'm just going to say, hey, you know what? Let's just go ahead and scan our QR code. So I'm going to bring open my handy dandy QR code scanner here. I'm going to scan that QR code and it says at the bottom here, use passkey. I'm going to go ahead and...
Did that work right?
Yeah, it actually did.
It looked like it took the image.
It did, but it actually, it's just how Google goes through.
Oh, okay.
And so it's asking me now if I want to skip the QR code next time. And I'm going to say not now. But what it's doing here is the phone is communicating with my device.
Yep.
And now it's saying, hey, let's go ahead and set up your passkey. And it's asking me for my fingerprint here, which you can't see because that's not it hides the ability to do it. But then the passkey's in. And now you're onboarded with a two-factor authentication, right?
Okay.
Unphishable it's a very secure way of doing transactions with you. In my document here, I'm just going to go ahead and accept our non-disclosure here, our simple form. And then that onboarding form that we had, usually this is a piece of paper.
Right.
It's now been all filled out for us.
Right. So they've actually, so now, you don't have to retype it.
You don't have to type anything in.
Yeah.
They can if they want, right? So we could make this so that you could actually click in here and change stuff if you wanted, but most of the time you don't. So we go ahead, and this is just a simple click to sign. We've already identified who the user is. Mm-hmm. We've issued them a strong authentication, and now we've actually done the document itself. And now what's great about this is, and what we really kind of want to highlight here, is that it's not just a document. Okay, I could download this, put it in a cloud somewhere, and store it somewhere forever. But additionally, we also have this item behind here, which is called the evidence summary. And the evidence summary actually gives us a whole bunch of information about what happened. So we can actually see who created the transaction. We can see what time they did it. We can see the geolocation information, whether they scanned a document. You can actually see here that I did the identity verification twice. We have a couple pieces in here. We did an OFAC check. And you can see the IP address of everything that's happening. So it's all being captured in this audit trail. And then we can even see what actually came through from our scanning of the IDV components. And so that's all in this evidence trail. And it's stored at the bank, also protected via certificates so that it can't be tampered with, it can't be changed.
Right.
And it allows you to prove that this transaction actually happened.
So if a snowman walked into the room right now and said, I didn't set up a bank account.
Exactly.
You'd be like, but you did.
Well, you could be like, hey, look, well, so this is what we have here. And they're like, yeah, that's not me. And so you can prove that this was done, by not them, right?
Yeah.
So you can actually see in here who did it, where they did it from, and if this is fraudulent, you can flag it. So you have risk systems that would pick out this type of transaction, right? So, but we're here actually opening a loan. So the next step in my process, right, is that, hey, you know what? I gotta actually fill out the paperwork for it, right? But honestly, I just put in my name, my address, all this other information. Do I really have to type that in again? Right. No, you don't, right? And so that's what OneSpan really focuses on. So we pull in a bunch of information from other data sources. So we can actually get it from all different types of data sources. We can put in all their information, so their email address, we already have their phone number, we have their address. We can put in a bunch of information. So some of it they're going to have to type in and fill out.
Right.
And then you can, of course, as you change your answers, this is going to make the form longer or shorter. But again, it's better than having, to fill out all of these papers here. Ultimately, when you finally get to signing everything, we're going to go ahead and submit our form. Now, typically, you'd go into another IDV session because you want to prove that you are the same user. Why would I do that though? I already know exactly. Right. So I can go ahead here and I say, yes, I want to use my passkey. So it says, okay, you're going to use it from your Pixel 7, which is my phone here. Yes, I am. It's going to go ahead and ask me to connect with my device. So it's connecting via Bluetooth here. It's then saying, okay, unlock it. So I go ahead and provide my fingerprint and it authenticates me and pulls me right into the transaction. So I didn't have to step through scanning my ID card and all that kind of stuff to prove the identity because I already did that. I already know who the person is.
Right.
And now anytime I come back to my bank, I can just simply use a fingerprint and log in and I can be assured that my transaction is going to be secure. So I don't have to worry about the credentials being stolen or viruses or anything. So again, we're in that form. Here's all the great information in here. And so a lot of these times you're going to end up having multiple signatures. What's great about electronic signatures is that you don't actually have to sign more than once. You sign once and it applies the signatures where you need it.
So, for companies that are looking to do this and add a lot of this identity stuff and the authentication part, is it hard to set up? Does it take a long time to do it? Is it relatively quick?
No, it's actually extremely quick, right? Yeah. So our back end, what we have is all cloud, first off. And it's mainly drag and drop, right? So like these forms that you're seeing here, you have a drag and drop editor where you're actually modifying the form and building it. To add your passkey or your IDV, it's literally saying, okay, here's my user, perform IDV for this user. Yeah. And once they performed IDV once, then just use passkeys from then on.
Okay.
And so it'll automatically do that for you. It's very easy for our customers to set that up. Most of our customers are banks and healthcare and kind of anywhere your retail users are getting involved with this. And that's usually where we see passkeys and security kind of needing to take a step up for our customers.
Will, you showed us a lot of great features here. Again, there's probably a ton more. Where can people go for more information about OneSpan?
Absolutely. So you can come to onespan.com and we have all of our products up there. You can actually sign up for a free sandbox and actually kick the tires and set up your own forums and what have you. It's completely white labeled, so you can add your own logos and all that kind of stuff. You're not going to see a OneSpan brand if you do it correctly. So.
All right, you answered my next question about the free demo, so you're all set.
Look at that, huh?
Will, thanks for the demo.
Absolutely. Love doing it. Great. Thank you for having me.
That's all the time we have for today's episode. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, add any thoughts you have below. Join us every week for new episodes of Demo. I'm Keith Shaw. Thanks for watching.